Peter, I'm not host again. I've just come back in.
Yeah.
Do you want to try switching host over to me again?
I'll try. Yep. I don't even have the option to do that now.
Peter, you had 2 accounts and I only seen one now. So there might be an issue. You made your host in your other account. So there was a duplication.
I don't know why there is 2 accounts. Yeah, I don't know why there's duplication.
So the other Peter who is not here anymore, he must have host accounts. So I would suggest.
Okay. I think if I leave, then it
just
might
bear with me a moment.
one of you guys.
Good morning, all those who are just joining us. We're just having a few technical issues this morning. We're just trying to resolve them.
Graham, please check. You must now be a host.
I will check. Yep, I think I'm host again. Thanks very much.
And
we can see Peter's slides.
You can see my slides.
So we just need so Raina, we just need the link to send out to our EOSC colleague. If you can send that to me on the chat, and then I can share
sent it to you. I've sent it to you earlier. Please, can you check in your private chat in this session?
I'm checking, but obviously because I had to go out and come back in again, I've lost that. So if you can send it to me again,
not a problem.
That'd be great. Thank you.
So you're seeing those slides full screen now?
Yes, thank you very much, Peter.
Great.
Graham, can you see the link?
I've got it. Thank you very much. I will just share it with our colleague so that they can. Jana, could you send that over to Celia, please?
Yeah, as soon as I have it, I will do.
Yeah, I've put it in the co-chairs channel on Slack.
Thank you. I'll go now.
Thank you very much.
No, it is impressive.
Okay, Peter, I'm going to put myself on mute now. So I think we are probably good to go. Jana is making sure that
Celia's got the link. She's acknowledged she's got the new link.
Fantastic.
I'll mute.
Okay. Well, we'll get started. Thank you very much for joining us and welcome to the Professionalising Data Stewardship Interest Group. I am hearing a little bit of background noise, so if you could just check that you're muted if you're not actually speaking, that would be great. Yes, so welcome to everyone, wherever you are in the world. And as people join, I'm sure a couple of you will come in as we go, but we'll get started and do a bit of introductions to the group. So, first of all, just some housekeeping. We do have some collaborative notes, and if we could share the link to that in the chat, that would be fantastic. And those collaborative notes are really important. It's the place where we can share, we can keep a record of this meeting. We're hoping to, make some decisions here, get some things happening. So those notes have all the links to the slides, the discussion boards we'll be using. Yeah, I know you can't see me. My video has been disabled while I'm screen sharing, according to Zoom. That's what it's telling me. So I would like to be able to talk to you, but it's hiding me from you. So that's just the way it is. So yeah, use those collaborative notes. Please add your name to the participant list. And yeah, if you could all just join in to collaborate on that note taking, that would be fantastic. Thanks. Thanks, Roman. So the session is going to be recorded and we'll make that available on the RDA website. As I've said, please mute video and audio. I don't think video, but audio when not talking or waiting to ask a question. Please use the chat. We can get to questions straight away, or if there are issues through the chat, that's great. And you can put questions and post and upload those in the Q&A. And we'll also have some discussion boards later on when we'll go through some breakout groups. So today's agenda, we're going to have just a little introduction and a quick background on the history, why we're at the situation where we are now and where we're going in the future. We're going to have a global overview, the state of data stewardship from Stefan Verhulst. We're going to have some presentations from the task groups to look at some of the work they've been doing, and also some of the collaborations we've been doing with EOSC. And then we'll have 30 minutes or so as a group session in breakout groups to do some discussion. And we'll talk about that a bit more when we get to that point of view. And then we'll have a wrap up to close the session. So the Professionalising Data Stewardship Interest Group, it's an RDA interest group. Please participate. We have a website, which is on the RDA. Again, the collaborative notes have the details. We do have regular communications on Slack. That's probably, along with the website and the posts that go out through the mailing list, they're definitely the two places where you can collaborate the most with the interest group. So the co-chairs, the interest group started, well, there were originally 3 co-chairs. It was myself and Micah and Marta Teperek. Since 2020, we've been joined by these fantastic group of co-chairs. So we have Micah, myself, Roman, Nicholas, Deborah, Barsha, Jan, Christina. In 2021, I'm afraid Barsha had to leave, replaced admirably by Graham, who is running things behind the scenes. And more recently, I'm afraid Micah had other commitments. We now have Jana, who's joined us. And so this is the current list of co-chairs today, and all our details are there if you need to contact anyone. So just a bit of background to the group. So the Professionalising Data Stewardship group came about because members of the group, well, we believe that data stewardship and data management skills are essential in the research process. And through discussions, talking with people, we've just discovered that there's a lack of consensus on knowledge, skills, responsibilities, and the value and confusion about data stewardship. I mean, if you work in this area or you're a data steward and you've ever been asked, what is it that you do? And you have a bit of trouble answering that, then you might know what I'm talking about. Or where do I go to train about being a data stewardship? Where do I find out more information? You know, what are the courses I can do? Where are the resources? These are the kinds of things that we're here to answer. So we're looking at all those things: training, career paths, data stewardship models, developing those kinds of things. And just to clarify, today we'll just use the definition of data stewardship as the responsible planning and executing of all actions on data before, during, and after a research project. So that's with the aim of optimizing usability, reusability, and reproducibility of the resulting data. So brief history of the interest group. In plenaries 14 and 15, we had some birds of a feather sessions. we developed a charter for an interest group, which was endorsed. That interest group then developed some task groups, 9 task groups, which you can see here. So a very ambitious program of work, and each of those task groups set about working on each of those tasks. We then realized, which we had already known, but we sort of documented more the interdependencies of these. So some needed to happen before others. We also did a bit of prioritization because it was very hard to work across all these different groups. And so we had a focus really around these first 3 task groups. That's what is the business case for data stewardship, the terminology, and also sort of data stewardship models as well. And subsequent plenaries, we've had working sessions to advance those 3 task groups. But we've also had a lot of work on the training and also career paths as well. So we're updating, and we've created a roadmap, and we're at the point where we need to round up and look at the next phase of the group. So we're going to see those updates. Those task groups 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6 are aiming to finalise their current work, and you'll see those updates in a minute. We've also developed connections with EOS Task Force, and we'll hear about those as well. So the next phase of the interest group is really to identify further priorities for the next phase. And we want to look at those priorities and formalise, look and see if there are any that make up a considerable body of work that we can formalise into an RDA working group. We also want to collaborate with external initiatives. We're not a silo. We want to work with others as much as we can. And that would include things like EOS Task Force, but others. So very open to suggestions and collaborations in that space. If there's other bits of work that are maybe smaller in nature that we can tackle and get done, maybe they're smaller task groups that we can spin up as well. So this is all the kinds of things we want to discuss once you've heard where we're at with the existing task groups and their outputs. And we'll also continue discussing this on the 30th. There's an RDA webinar where the interest group will be present, and we'll have further details about that at the end, and I'm sure it's in the collaborative notes. So we'll start here with a video from Stefan Verhulst as in terms of global data stewardship. And this will be a good test to see if this will play. And I need the passcode. Oops. Just bear with me. And please tell me if you can you hear that?
I'm afraid we can't at the moment. You might need to change your audio settings.
Okay, just a minute.
I could hear it, just a very low volume.
Yeah.
Just while we're waiting for Peter to have a look at his audio settings, just a reminder, if you could join the shared notes document and add your contact details in, that'd be fantastic. Thank you.
Those 5 competencies involve first stewarding data in a responsible way. And that's, of course, the typical kind of data stewardship.
I think we might leave that for the moment, and I'll see if I can. What do you think, Graham? Do we persist or?
I could just about hear it. It sounded like it was coming through your computer audio being picked up by your mic.
Oh, right.
But yeah, people are saying the audio is a bit of a struggle. And Angus is getting lots of echo. So maybe we can step over it. There is a link to that video in the slide deck. And the passcode is in the speaker notes if people want to go and watch it after our session.
Yeah, sorry about that. I think the Zoom, I'm just having trouble with this embedded version of Zoom to be able to play that video. So we might move on to the lightning talks to hear about the work from the task groups, unless there's any questions or anything we need to address at the moment. Okay, can't see anything there. Yes, too many layers of technology. Okay, so we will start with, they may not be in order, but we will start with group 1, and that is the business case. So I guess I'll just, rather than have multiple people sharing slides, I can just run these slides if you talk me through when I need to change slides.
Okay, so we don't actually have Deborah or Christina with us today. So I said I'd sort of step in and kind of give a little bit of an overview for the business case. So yeah, the challenges there with the organizations sort of rely on using data for research and analysis, but are often not aware that they need somebody with sort of data stewardship experience or expertise. So the approach of the business case was to kind of find some case studies to highlight the benefits and sort of do a risk assessment as well. And if you move on to the next slide, please, Peter. Oh, and what they've been doing to date is they've been putting together a lot of the background information that they've been gathering into a draft report, and they've been making some good progress on that. But as possibly just indicated on the first slide, at the moment they are lacking a sort of code task leads for the group. So the amount of effort available to kind of see that draft report over the line is not there at the moment. And I'll come back to that point in a second. So the report itself has like a nice introduction section which covers the background of what the data steward is, the roles, the definitions, and there are links obviously out to other task groups as well. And they've also been looking at recent developments and the fact that it's not just about the technology, it's also about the people. And that's kind of a crucial aspect and certainly touched on by our other task groups as well. And as I mentioned earlier on about the risk if you don't have any data stewardship within your organization, what that can lead to. It also examines who the stakeholders are as well. And I think we'll sort of see there's some connections there with the model survey results as well that we can feed into that work. So there's lots of extra material which can go into that draft report, but we do need some people to help us with this one. They also ran a workshop on the business case for data stewards, and they've been sort of writing that up within the draft report as well. And they've already got some particular case studies embedded in that report. If you go to the next slide, please, Peter. So yeah, so the next steps for that task group are really to keep on working on that draft report and to incorporate the outcomes of the other task groups as they continue to emerge and mature. So definitely crossovers with the terminology task group with the definitions around data stewardship and the roles. The models task group, we've got our survey output, which I'll talk about in the next bit. We've got job profiles as well coming in from task group 4, and the career paths from task group 6 as will also be there. There is a question about kind of how we sort of roll the efforts of the business task group, business case task group into maybe a formal working group linked to the interest group as a whole. But the key thing is that at the moment we do need some extra people to sort of step up and to sort of get involved. If you want to do that, then please do get in touch with us. You will get our support as the co-chairs. along with Deborah, who's the current co-chair with the task group, to make that happen. Okay, thanks very much, Peter. Next slide, please. So it's myself again about task group 3. This is the data stewardship models. So I've been doing this work as co-chair along with Bill and Lise as the co-task group leads, and a bunch of other people who've added into the kind of the work as well, who you can see listed there. So Nicholas, Angus, Irena, Adam, and Eleanor. Move to the next slide, please. So underpinning a lot of our work, we've had this conceptual diagram to sort of help us to focus on the aims. And if you click on for me. And the idea is that, you know, we're aiming to model the data stewardship roles within particular service provisions of data stewardship and the larger organizational contexts within which the service provisions exists, and how these roles and services interact with their target communities. Next slide. And keep going. There'll be a few sort of clicks. So we ran a survey recently, and that survey had various sections to it which covered various parts of this conceptual landscape, and some additional areas as well. Those things like service maturity, the engagement that they have within their communities, their experiences as well, and also trying to get an idea of the scales of the services. Next slide, please. So yeah, that survey ran until the 25th of November, and we're starting to get the data set is now being published from that, which is released under the Creative Commons by Attributions version 4 license. It's there as a community resource. Please do come along and use it. It has 2 parts. The first part is a nice comma separated variable file, which is the cleaned anonymized data set for all of the 136 responses that we had. Plus, we've got textual analysis that was done by a couple of our colleagues as well on the open text fields. Next slide, please. The sort of key messages that we can sort of take home from this, which are going to our initial survey report, which is due soon. We had 136 responses. 82 of those we will call complete. The remainder sort of really answered the first section, which is about sort of profiling the types of services. And we were able to sort of identify 2 main cohorts. If you click on, please, Peter. So we have what we call institutional scale repositories, which are very much sort of more librarian based. We see much more of a prominence on an advisory role there, as well as repository services. And then the next click. We also have larger sort of national to sort of global scale repositories, which tend to be sort of single or multi-domain repositories, where there is a more technical nature to them. They're more infrastructure based as well. And we see these sort of aspects coming out in terms of the roles that they say are present within their service, the sort of functions which they perform, and also we see some diversity in the different funding streams as well. Next slide, please. One of the things to note about the survey results is that we have a strong European bias. 91 out of the 136 responses were from Europe, 17 from North America. And part of this, we think there might be some issues around the term data stewardship, that it might be a term which is much more in common use within Europe and less so in other parts of the world. And that might sort of influence how we take this terminology and adapt it for different audiences in the future. So move on to the next slide, please. So possible next steps, that we could take the survey itself and sort of just retweak the wording to address the terminology barrier to try and get greater coverage. We could take some of the existing results and we could actually follow those up with more in-depth interviews with some of the respondents to give some much more detailed case studies as exemplars. But we've also got the continuation of the present analysis to get our initial survey report out. Like I said earlier on, it's due probably within the next couple of weeks, because we're in the throes of finalizing that at the moment, and we can feed those outputs into other interest groups as well. Next slide, please. That's me, and I think it's time to hand over to Cecilia.
Thank you, Graham. So thank you, everybody, and thank you for the invitation to present the work of the EOSC Task Force on Data Stewardship here. My name is Celia van Gelder. I'm working at DTL. I'm actually a close colleague to Maaike, which you all know very well. And together we have been leading the data stewardship work in the Netherlands that you may be familiar with. And I think also Jan, who is also in the call today, was also part of the Dutch team. So can I have the next slide? I have made a very brief summary, and this is about our task force. So the focus of our task force is really the data stewardship role, and the core activities are that we are going to work on job roles and curricula to make sure that they are recognized and aligned across Europe. And we want to develop recommendations for potential career paths. And what is really important is that we will do this not only by theoretical work, but really to identify both existing but also new potential use cases where all these guidelines, ideas, recommendations are being implemented or can be implemented in the future. So we have a charter, the link is here, it's on the EOSC website and you can find the details there. Next slide, please. So the task force started in November 2021 with Ilira and Vera as chairs. But because Vera left EBI for another job, I was asked to become the new co-chair, but so I'm only working on this task force as a chair since April. We are small, we are only 20 members. And that also means that this is an invitation to all of you here, that if you are interested, please contact us. We really can use more members. We have members from the main stakeholder groups like universities, national organizations, infrastructures, EOSC projects, etc. And I think also very important and very familiar to all of you, all the members have multiple hats, national, international projects, etc. And I think also that's how it's supposed to be in the task force. If you want to know more, please contact Ilira and me directly. That is an open invitation too. Next slide, please. So what we want to do, and this is really important, our approach is not to invent anything new. We are going to build on the previous work from stakeholders in this enormous landscape, national, international, cross domains and everything. We want to avoid duplication and definitely not reinvent the wheel. So in our view, the work of the task force is more like bringing together what is already there, insights, etc., consolidate and together work forwards. And the co-creation between theoretical work and implementation examples I already mentioned. And the first two things we are working on, I have to say that in principle, the task forces have a duration of 2 years. So from November 2021 to November 2023. And the first two things we are now working on is actually really this first thing. Who are the stakeholders and who are the initiatives? Very important. What work have they done? Definitions that they've used, recommendations that they have made, and things like that. This is what we are doing now. And the other one that is upcoming milestone is a report about how the roles map in international disciplinary and institutional context. Actually, Jana is also, we have 2 work streams in the task force, and Jana is co-chair with Irina and myself of one of the work streams too. So I think this really indicates that we are with many people, but all of us are in, have many hats. So can I have the next slide, which is also my last one? So we are aligning. So in the EOSC Association, there are, I think, 14 task forces, and you see them here. And the ones we are most liaising to are related to research, careers, and curricula. But there are also others like researcher engagement and things like that. So we also really in the EOSC try to now with all the chairs of the task forces to avoid that everybody's going to work in silos. But then, of course, for today, I think one of the most important stakeholder groups is actually the RDA groups, and one of which is here today. So we really, I think, are looking forward to find a way which we can work together, how you can bring in all the things that you have developed, and that we can take this on in a good way going forward. And maybe later on we can discuss about options, but at least one immediate invitation I want to make is that we really would like a presentation from the interest group in one of the plenary meetings, upcoming meetings of the task force. And then as a third bullet, we also aligning with other initiatives and projects. And one example is actually the AUA, the Association for Universities. So yeah, this is more or less where we are, trying to consolidate, find out what's there, and build on that with help of the whole community. So thank you for your attention, and I'm happy to take questions now or later, whatever the chairs of the meeting find appropriate.
Oops. We might just wait till the end of just this, looking at all the different task groups, and then we can take a few questions, I think. So we'll move on to group 5, which is the research landscape of data stewardship training.
And unfortunately, the two authors were not able to join us today. So Jukka Rantasaari and Lorna Wildgaard have done the big bulk of work. Claudia Engelhardt and myself have been supporting as editors and commenting on the draft report. So I've only got 2 slides, which will give you a taste of what the report is about. Next slide, please. The current working title of the report, which pretty much says what it's about, is Gaps in Data Stewardship. What kind of needs for training do data stewards face in supporting research? And what I will talk about the next few minutes is what the main product of this report is, the 3 most important take-home messages that we've discovered from the report, and how you can provide us some useful feedback. And the contacts are on this slide as well. So my email address, I'm the co-chair of the training task group, and Jukka Rantasaari's email address as the main author. If you click on the picture of the report for front page on the right next, please. You should have a link to the report from there. Okay. So when you get a copy of the slides, you can actually access the draft report yourself to have a look at it with a bit more time. And if you scroll down on the report page, Peter, please. Just so that we can see what it is. So if you get to the contents list in the beginning, there. So you see that it's quite a complex structure for the report, but we'll have a look at the research questions now. You can see there's lots of gaps that we have looked at. And the main product from the report is in section 4, which is a long table with the gaps and solutions in the report. So if you have a look at the research questions in the beginning, please, if you scroll further down. A bit further. Let me just look at my copy to make sure I've got the right page. They were on page 8, there. So Jukka and Lorna started from looking at gaps in data stewards' own skills, researcher skills, existing training materials, and our gaps in our knowledge about about the needs as well. So if we don't even know there's a gap, how do we address that? And then the main, I'm not going to go through all the gaps discussion today, but if you scroll to page 33, which is the beginning of the table, This, we think, is the main output and the main value of this report from page 33, and it goes on almost 30 pages. So we'll ignore the text today. So this is the way it looks. So they have collected all the gaps that we have discovered in the literature, link to where that was discovered, and then examples of solutions. So when you have time, if you want to go and sort of explore this, particularly the section 4 of the report, and look at the value of this section. So all the different gaps that I mentioned in the beginning, the data stewards, researchers, training materials, and others, they are all grouped here as a user-friendly table. And we can go to the next slide, please, then, out of the report. So the 3 main take-home messages from this report. The first one is collaborate internationally on certified training, because this coordinated training will ensure that organizations, whatever their size and resources are, can have access to shared resources, and further disciplinary differences in data steward support can be made visible and hence provided for. And this also links back to Graham's talk about the model and different organizations that he mentioned in his slides. The second take-home message, enabling researchers to share their data from planning stage of their project. And out of the literature came the idea that motivating researchers to share data is the key to investment in data stewardship, whether it's sharing the entire data set or just the metadata shared during the project with project partners, or shared after the project outside of the project group. So this involves developing materials and training for the data steward and the researcher in how to share data appropriately, safely, and securely within an organization or the project, as well as externally. And these training materials should also address the ethics and societal and practical benefits of data sharing, not only the technical aspects. And the third and the final take-home message is to address the increased need for technical skills in data stewardship. And by this, we mean future data steward competencies border on and partly overlap with computer science technical competencies. And the data steward community needs increased collaboration with computer scientists to define and build solutions, as future data stewardship is becoming more and more automated. A technical shift in stewardship to be able to support open science and fair also means a shift in the placement of data steward service in the organization, where the service encompasses teaching, technical, and research skills. So those 3, there are other messages, but we picked 3 to share with you here today. And what the authors would particularly like feedback on, not exclusively, but mainly, what uses do you as the audience see for this report and its findings? So think about that table about the gaps and solutions and the take-home messages. And what also Celia particularly talked about the linking with other communities and making sure we don't duplicate work. What other user communities might benefit from reading this report and its findings? And that is my last slide, just to mention that we will be having the next meeting of the training task group very soon. So you still have time to join us, because we are going to discuss any other outputs that we could contribute to or take on following this report. So contact me on the email on the first slide if you want to join us or are curious about what we will be doing. Thank you.
Thanks. Hello, everyone. I'm happy to give an update on Group 6 Data Steward career tracks. We are a small group. We actually just restarted, pick up the topic recently, like a couple of months ago. Next slide, please. Yeah, so the importance of data stewardship and data steward or other type of RDM professional support roles have been very well recognized, and there have been a lot of attention, effort, joint work on the trainings, on the profiles, and on many other aspects. But regarding the career track and the future path for this type of highly specialized experts, are still not very clear and not well recognized as a profession in academia. In industry, there are quite some already some work and effort there, but in academia, unfortunately, it is still a very new topic. Many work focus on the requirement for data stewards and for training and the professional competences. At the same time, we think it is also very important to better understand what are the future paths for these people, because most of them, they have been obtained professional training or research profile, and they deserve a clear and a good path to make their work more, to recognize their work, and to also make the pool expertise more sustainable if we would like to have the data stewardship service in the long term. That's why we also understand to change the career tracks, and that really requires systematic work. So we to start with a very humble step is just to understand what are the current and the future career perspectives from the community members. We are planning to launch a survey, just a very brief survey, anonymous by default, to ask people who work or who worked as data steward or similar RDM roles about what are their current status of the positions, and if they were working as a data steward and not anymore, and what are their current positions, and how do they vision about their next few years in the career path. We would also like to seek out volunteers who would like to share more insight from their of their career perspective with us. So this is also an invitation to the community. Please join us either via the survey or contact us directly to start having conversations. Next slide, please. So we're actually launching the survey officially from today in this session. There's the link to the survey, and we plan to keep the survey open initially for 2-3 months, just to see how many responses we have. And if in the survey, there's also an option to leave contact information there if you like to have further conversation with us. We hope that there will be a lot of responses and also help us to better understand and to learn what are the current and the future career perspective of these professionals, and then to move forward from there to see where we can, what we can recommend or what we learned, and how we can proceed on this topic. So thank you very much. Don't hesitate to leave your contact information in the share the meeting notes or contact me directly. Thank you.
I see we have Ramon's unmuted, but we can't hear him at the moment. We can see you, Ramon. Can you give us a thumbs up if you can hear us, and try speaking to see if we can hear you? Okay, so Ramon's having problems unmuting. I will try and toggle him. Okay, try again on Ramon.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Thanks very much.
Oh, yes, great. So, sorry for the minute of silence. So, I'm Romain David, the chair of the group 2 on terminology. And now I will do a focus on addressing multilingual challenge for data and data dictionary terminologies. So, next slide, please. A reminder of the challenge of this group is combining terminologies and data stewardship to bring different organizations together and highlighting polysemic issues and various use of terms across domain and regions. So the step that are proposed is to reuse existing work from RDA and other fora, that's an evidence, and enrich existing tools, not reinvent the wheel. To build interactions with other task group to find and propose the definitions they need, or to take the definitions they propose, and to formalize a community approval process to choose the better definition and vocabularies. The expected outcomes are the data stewardship terminology tool to share and validate terms, and the first version of a minimal set of common terms definition. So we need input from the RDA community, like feedback and suggestions on the if there is any work or vocabulary that we should consider. We are totally agree to incorporate it. Next slide. So we have a focus on the multilingual challenge that we can have. At the global scale, the term comparison is a time and space story. There are discrepancies between regions and groups, and there are numerous, whether for individual data user or more universally. We must anticipate issues those as which the preference language, like polysemy, one term with multiple meanings, or confusions, multiple terms for one meaning, or false friends between two languages, plus existing and evolving nuance that not match exactly between language and during time. Furthermore, terms are often adapted from another language with different contexts and disciplinary rules, and that might decreasing interoperability and impede translation of all versions at the same time. So translation occurs at the concept level, not as simple one-to-one translation of consecutive words. Next slide, please. So we have proposed an analysis of all the mechanisms that are increasing the multilingual challenges, and it's proposed in a poster. You have the context that can be the regions, the discipline, and or the language. And the first term 1, can develop and can be developed and evolved during time. So it can become a concept 2. It can be refined in different terms, like concept 6 or 7, and some of them can be obsolete during time. In another context, the same term can be misinterpreted, and new terms can be created for an existing meaning, and a term can be used in another context in another meaning, and also in the same context that can be merged. They can be merged in one other concept. So There are lots of challenge in this translator objective. So the main challenge are how to choose the best vocabulary, ontology, and resource, how to manage different preferences between communities, and how to translate sustainability mindful of inherent instability. So the convergence with standardized vocabulary worldwide makes that standard do it better, obviously. Next slide, please. So we have listed what we think good practices here are for translator. We need scientific skills with at least good command of target languages. We need validators to check work translated. We need a clear versioning system because all vocabularies are evolving in a parallel way, and we need a translating strategy with prioritization levels because it can be translated in several languages. For database, we need the data dictionary with disambiguated definition, both linked to and linked by concept in shared ontologies. We need the date of the definition. We need the context of use, disciplinary protocol, necessary skills, and we need for database a description of the community approval process that can be adapted by the new terms by other communities. So finally, science must be universally shared in an interdisciplinary way, respecting that all disciplines are creating new concepts, and the fact that science is always creating them is the core challenge for translator. Next slide, please. So all of this is in a poster that is presented by our group and other co-authors. So if you want to check it and to read it again, you can see it in the poster session after this session. Thank you.
Thank you very much to all the people reporting back on that work. It's really, really amazing work and very impressive what everyone's done. And yeah, I'm sure you can see opportunities to collaborate there and to hopefully been getting some ideas about where we want to go in the future as well. I think just in interest of time, I think technology is just slowing us down a little bit. So perhaps if you have questions, we could perhaps put them in the chat or in the collaborative document, and people we can attempt to get to those. But for now, I'd like to move into some discussion so we can have a bit of a chat to each other. We have some breakout rooms that we will allocate you into. This is a really good chance to yeah, develop some of those ideas further, put some ideas in. We're very open to any ideas, and we have some discussion prompts for you to guide you. So we're really looking, this is all in the notes, so just follow the instructions there, and there are links to the breakout meeting boards where we can put these things down and move them around and vote on things and all sorts of fancy stuff. So yeah, we want to know what RDA outputs would be useful given the current state. Do the things we're doing at the moment make sense? Are there other things we can do? What collaboration opportunities exist, and what are sort of achievable things that we can do in the next 18 months. So, and we'll hopefully prioritize those as we talk. And we're really looking for anyone to volunteer or who's got time and who feels particularly passionate about any of these issues, just to get involved and add your name into the collaborative document. So Graham, do we have those breakout groups ready to go?
I'm just creating them, trying to assign people. And I'm sorry, I threw a few people into the room a bit too early, so apologies to those people. So I'm going to quickly just run down. So we have a co-chair in each room. So I'm just going to allocate now. Just give me 2 seconds, people.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fine. We do it automatically. We may end up with just all the co-chairs in one group and other people in other ones. But if anyone does have a question while we're doing this, I think we'll run this for about 20 minutes, and then we'll report back at 1/4 past the hour. And yeah.
Okay, I think I've done that now.
Okay, so feel free to
find out who else has left. I might
so
be
keep
one
an
or
eye on
two
the
very quick.
collaborative notes. Right. Keep an eye on the collaborative notes, follow the instructions, and join the breakout group that you've been invited to. So I look forward to catching up again in 20 minutes or so.
If you've not got into a room yet, just let me know.